It's very nice to meet you and to be with the Savvy Ladies. My daughter had the opportunity to intern with your organization this summer, and it was a pleasure to learn about such a worthwhile organization. And so I'm very honored to be a guest with you today. So today's webinar is about the topic of kindness. And we have all just entered into 2018, and most of us have made resolutions. I know for myself, I have failed miserably, and we're only 18 days into it. My resolution was better self-care. You can hear I've been sick since the beginning of the year. So I haven't been doing very well so far. So I'm going to try to talk to you about a resolution that hopefully everybody will be able to do a better job and will be able to keep. And that resolution is about kindness. So I had the opportunity to collect stories and have put them all together under this title of Bekindr. And the point of this book was to help people focus back on kindness. And to be a savvy lady, I think it's something very important is to think about how kindness is involved in your life and how you can use kindness to make your life even better. The point of resolutions is to make our lives happier, more fulfilled, to live in a better way. And so many of us, like myself, make resolutions at the beginning of the year that you can't keep. They're just impossible. If you could have made those changes, you would have made them last year, or the year before, or the year before. But thinking about kindness, I think, is a resolution that we all will be able to keep. And I think right now it's vitally important. I think we're at a time in our history of our country, of our world, where we're at a crossroads. And I think we're at a moment when things can either get an awful lot better or they can get an awful lot worse. And I think we're all sort of collectively and individually feeling that. We're feeling that a lot of information is coming at us, and we're bombarded with negative news all the time. It can be very overwhelming, and it's making us, I think, shrink into ourselves. So about 3 years ago, I started thinking about kindness as a way for people to connect, and the book has come out at a very opportune moment, and I'm happy to be talking to everybody today at the beginning of the year, because what my belief is we have to go back to the basics. We have to go back to understanding who we are, why we're here, and that will help us make resolutions that we're going to be able to keep. So let's get started today. I think, Maggie, you already told everybody about me, but just to reiterate, I am a psychiatrist in Miami Beach, and I've been seeing patients, individuals, couples, and families for 25 years. And we're at a very interesting point in our history as a country, because right now more people are single than married, and this has not been the case in many, many, many decades. But right now, I think social media has changed all our relationships so much that it's given people the opportunity to be happier as single people, and it's given people in marriages the unfortunate opportunity to be unfaithful in so many ways and see so many other opportunities. And so people aren't investing as much in marriages and in their relationship. In addition, we're all living so long. And so many people are outliving their spouses, they're outliving the point of the marriage where the children are a focus. And there's so many different reasons that people are not staying together. But it's really shaped the way our society is. So my practice has changed a lot over the years. And I'm seeing, as I think we all know, much more anxiety. If you ladies, some of you are up in New York, you know the winner of this year's Tony was Dear Evan Hansen, which is a story about a young boy with anxiety. And so many of us are experiencing so much more anxiety. One, because our relationships are struggling more, we're single, we're not supported. Families are living, different parts of the country. Sometimes we think we're close to people because we have Facebook and Skype, but really we are geographically spread apart, and that causes a lot of stress for people. And there's many reasons why anxiety is much more common, and that's what I'm seeing in my practice. So my practice has changed, and I wanted to, at this stage of my life, be able to sort of get behind the confines of my office. You're you're in my office today, you can see a little bit of it. But I wanted to be able to talk to more people and try to help more people understand why we're struggling now and how kindness can be a path out of some of the difficulties we're having. So that's a little bit more about me. And as Maggie, as I said to you earlier about Maggie, I have two daughters. One is currently at University of Michigan and the other is studying at Lynn University. So I see the young people today, a lot of struggles, a lot of anxiety. The world has gotten very complex and very competitive is the downside. The upside is so many more opportunities. So 2018 is a year that is hopefully a year when a lot of changes will occur for most people. And the change that I'd like to see people make ultimately is wellness, happiness, wellness, feeling like they're living the best life. But sometimes that goal is too far off. So I think if we set goals that are closer, we will end up getting where we want to go. And what I find with my patients and my friends and myself and my family is if we can set a goal to be kinder to one another and try to incorporate that into our life on an everyday basis, then that gives us the opportunity to feel connected to people, to end up being happier, end up being healthier, and leading more fulfilling lives. So we have nicknamed this campaign Be Kinder RSVP Now. And we picked that name because we want everybody to join us on this campaign. Kindness is something that the more you do it, the more it spreads and the more contagious it can become. And the more people that are doing it, the better it can be. If kindness is in a vacuum, it can almost be scary because you don't know where it's coming from. But if everybody makes a commitment together to be kind, then when we're kind to each other, we don't have to think, gee, I wonder what they really meant by that, or are they really trying to get something from us? But if we can all sort of commit to this idea of being kinder to one another, then I think that's the path to leading happier, healthier lives. So we've asked you to join us, and join us is very simple. You ladies have already joined us today, and I'm very grateful for that. And all you need to do moving forward is to think about the word be kinder. What would it mean to you if you decided to be kinder? And since I'm a psychiatrist, I try to help people on their individual journeys. I try not to tell them what to do. I don't say, get married, don't get married, work as a doctor, don't work as a doctor. I try to say, you know, what is best for you to do, and try to help people figure out how to lead their best life and recognize that everybody's life looks very different from the person sitting next to them. So your journey, each of you ladies, as you're learning about kindness today, can be completely different than anybody else's journey about kindness. So you can pick how you want to be kinder. In the book, I have categories. So we can start with kindness to self, and that's my resolution, is trying to take better care of myself and not always be in the role of caretaker. And since I told you already, it's novel for me, I'm not so good, so I've got to learn to that. So I'm trying to learn, you know, what's the kind thing to do to myself and try to pick that as an option. Other people who maybe mastered kindness to themselves already, then they can step into kindness to others. And that can be kindness to a loved one, it can be kindness to a child, it can be kindness to a friend, a colleague like Maggie, it can be kindness to a stranger. It really doesn't matter. It's the act of being kind that I think is so important for each of us. And then we can each choose how we want to be kind. So we can be kind to all ourselves, all those different people. We can also choose to be kinder to our environment. Our environment clearly is suffering a lot right now. My mother lives in Montecito, and we know, tragedy has fallen on that community with the mudslides due to the fires, due to the drought. So our environment desperately needs us. So maybe one of the savvy ladies today will say, you know what, I do want to be kinder. I want to be kinder to the environment. And then they can decide for them, what does that look like if they decide to be kinder for their environment. Another category is animals. Maybe you need a pet in your life. Maybe you want to help out an animal shelter. So Be Kinder and RSVP Now is an open invitation. We want everybody to join. There's no requirements, no fees, no specifics. Just think about that word of being kinder. And you can decide today to be kinder to yourself, tomorrow kinder to an animal, the next day kinder to a stranger. Just put the thought in your head, and then look for opportunities to be kinder, wherever, whenever. Once you start to think about them, you'll see them popping up in more and more places, and it will become more second nature to you. So by the time we move into 2019, you can make a new resolution because kindness will be embedded. Habit change usually takes about 30 to 90 days. So if you can start, some people like to start with that 30-day commitment that I'm going to be kinder for the next 30 days in a row. Journaling, writing it down, all that can be very helpful to continue to honor your commitment. So if that's something to appeals to you, I invite you to do that so that you can see that these changes are occurring. If you don't want to make that sort of a commitment, that's fine. Be kinder whenever you feel like it, and just sort of assess in a month how that has changed your life, how that's changed your focus. So many of the reasons that I think being kind is important come from the fact that it's very much rooted in our biology. I had the great fortune of training for a year at Harvard studying evolutionary psychology. And what evolutionary psychology teaches us is how our history, our biologic and our genetic history shapes the way we behave. And if we think about who we are as humans, then we'll be able to recognize that we're all very interconnected, that as humans, we give birth to very dependent young. When babies come out, they will positively die if you don't care for them. And unlike many other animal species, our young will die for many, 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 many years if we don't care for them. And so we as a human species biologically are wired to care for one another. If we don't care for one another, our species will not exist because we won't care for our babies, babies won't survive, and then the human race will be over. So understanding that caring, compassion, kindness is all genetically wired, I think makes it easier to kind of go back to that. So anything that we're wired to do is going to be good for our health because that's the way nature's designed us, to reinforce those behaviors. So if we're designed to care, then good things have to happen to us when we care. And if I'm getting confusing, stop me and we can answer it in the question and answer. But what I want you to take home is just some simple tips today that will help you be kinder. So I want you to observe the next time you're kind to somebody, how do you feel? What does it feel like when you're being kind to somebody? And I think what you're going to notice is that it feels very good. It makes you feel happy. It makes you feel calm. And why that happens is when we're kind to somebody, as nature has designed us to be, we release oxytocin. And oxytocin is a neurohormone that's released in your brain and spreads throughout your body, and it has many beneficial health effects that make you feel calmer and make you feel connected to somebody. We'll get into some of those specific benefits in a moment, but just for now, take in mind that when we're kind, we release oxytocin and we feel good. Any of you animal lovers out there, you know when you hug your pet, you instantly feel so good, or parents or a friend or a lover, when you hug them, you feel so good. That's because your body's releasing oxytocin. When you have a mother who's nursing, that releases a lot of oxytocin. When you're sexually intimate with somebody, that releases a lot of oxytocin. So these are all behaviors that make us feel good, that are good for our health, and we want to find ways to do more of them because that's going to make us savvy ladies. It's going to make us know how to make ourselves feel good and how to make ourselves feel better. So thinking about oxytocin, finding ways to release it as often you can, that will go a long way towards giving you your most optimal health. Next thing I like to let you know about is what I call mirror neurons. Mirror neurons, it's actually not me that calls them that, it's scientists back in the 1990s that discovered them and named them mirror neurons. But mirror neurons are a portion of our brain that mirror what we see. So if we see somebody and they're smiling, that triggers the mirror neurons in our brain that smile and makes it a lot easier to smile. The reverse is true too. If we see somebody frowning, it's very easy to trigger our mirror neurons for frowning, and the next thing we know, we're not feeling well. So mirror neurons are something that all ladies should know about, but savvy ladies have to know about them because it's how we catch each other's emotions. And to be a savvy lady, you want to be powerful and you want people to catch your emotions. You don't want to be catching other people's emotions if they're negative emotions. If they're positive emotions, okay, it's fine. But if they're negative, you want to remember that you have mirror neurons that are catching those emotions, and you want to be able to put up a barrier so you don't feel them. So what do mirror neurons have to do with kindness? Well, they have everything to do with kindness because they are what makes kindness so rewarding. If we think about kindness, kindness occurs when somebody else is vulnerable. They're in a bad spot or a bad situation. So they're suffering. So when we go up to them, our mirror neurons for suffering are triggered. And if we want to switch around the situation, we have to make that other person happy. Thereby we'll trigger our own mirror neurons and we'll be happy. So the simplest way to do this is if you see somebody who's in discomfort is to go up and in whatever way is appropriate, it depends if you know them or not know them, but try to get them to feel better. So if it's somebody you know and love that's suffering, you can go up and you can touch them and that releases oxytocin. Then they'll feel a little better, you'll feel a little better. If it's a stranger that's suffering, if you just go up to somebody and say something kind, that will make them feel better. If you're just passing somebody on the street, if you make a smile, that's going to trigger their mirror neurons and they're going to smile. So understanding how connected we are to each other and how we transmit our emotions is essential if you want to be most effective. And it's through our mirror neurons. It's also why, frankly, speaking on this webinar is so difficult because I'm not getting feedback from anybody. And I'm trying not to look at myself because it's really weird to look at yourself when you're talking. So the webinar is a little bit challenging. Usually you speak in public and you get to see people and they smile at you and then you smile back and your anxiety goes down. So that's just a little aside. So I wish I could see all your ladies' smiles and I hope that you're smiling because then my mirror neurons would be feeling better. So why are people so nice at some times and not so nice at other times? And this, I think, is very important to understand because I think technology has altered our world so profoundly. And the question on the slides is, why are people so nice after disasters? And the reason, there's multiple reasons, but one of the reasons that people are so nice after disasters is because they disconnect from social media and they focus in on the present moment. And what I am concerned is hampering our existence as humans right now is all of these distracting connections we have and the lack of meaningful connections. And when a disaster occurs, people are forced to focus in on their own immediate environments, and they're incredibly nice. And every time a disaster occurs, like these mudslides in California, like the fires in California, like, the list goes on and on and on and on, people do always step forward to help. And that is because, as I said earlier, we as humans are designed to help one another. So our natural state is to help. But we get very distracted by work pressures, time pressures, social media pressures, and we forget to help one another. And that was one of my primary motivations of writing this book, is it's too easy to get distracted and go away from what happens to us when we really get down to what's essential. In a time of disaster, what's essential is to love and care for one another, and we know innately, intuitively how to do that. So we as a society have to figure out how not to lose that ability when we get distracted by so much negative news around the world. We feel hopeless, overwhelmed, and we numb out. And that's what I think we're seeing a lot of right now. The news is so bad, and we feel like there's nothing we can do about it, and we just numb out. And in that state, we're not kind to ourselves, and we're certainly not kind to other people. takes a disaster or it takes a moment of crisis for people to reassess their values and say, wait a minute, we're all here, we're all humans, we all need to love and take care of one another. And that needs to be our priority, no matter how busy, no matter how distracted we get. So hopefully today as Savvy Ladies, we can use this seminar as a reminder of these important things and not wait for the disaster to occur to know that we need to be nice and kind to one another. So again, if I'm getting too doctory, you can ask me in the questions, but kindness has to occur in the right setting. And the right setting is when we are calm and relaxed. And that is the opposite of what's happening now with all this negative news that we're bombarded with. We're so flooded with all these terrible things that are going on. It triggers our sympathetic nervous system, which is our fight or flight response. And Savvy Ladies, try to remember back to the last time you were scared or nervous, and these were the symptoms you got. Your heart was racing, your blood pressure was up, your stomach was churning, you couldn't digest food, blood was filled with sugar so that you could start to run, you didn't want to eat anything, your eyes were wide with fear. It's not a comfortable state. It's an unpleasant state of arousal that we need when we need to get into a fight or flight situation. That's the way our body was designed. The problem is right now in this complicated society in which we live, fight or flight is not our friend. That is very rarely the right response. This goes back to what I was saying about my practice. 25 years I've been sitting here, and one of the very, very common problems I see is people too quick to anger. Why are they so quick to anger? Because their sympathetic nervous system gets aroused, they get upset about something, and your biology tells you to fight or flight, get out. But if you're in a relationship, getting out usually isn't a good option. So you want to fight. But fight is an ancient solution, and we have very modern problems. So fighting usually isn't the solution. And that's why couples end up in my office, because they get aroused, they get angry, they get in fights. It doesn't solve anything. And so what we need to learn is how to combat these natural feelings and trigger the opposite side of our nervous system, which is also very ancient, and that is a parasympathetic nervous system. And this is your rest and digest system, or they also nickname it the tend and befriend. Again, if we think back to the old days, hunter-gatherers, we were fighting sometimes, fleeing from animals, but we also had a lot of time for rest, a lot of downtime, just looking at the stars, relaxing, maybe talking to one another, smelling the flowers. These are all things that are very good for our nervous system, and we don't do enough of them. So part of optimal health in 2018 and part of being kinder is taking care of yourself and developing a stronger parasympathetic nervous system. This is the part of your nervous system that stays calm when your heart rate is slow, your blood pressure is down, your blood dilates because you don't need it in the muscle. You can store energy because you're not using it. You feel hungry. Think about like if it's cold and you're just kind of bundled up inside, you feel calm, you don't have to go anywhere. So building up that part of our nervous system is very important, because that's the tend and befriend. That's where the kindness comes from. When you're feeling safe and secure, that's when you can be kind to others. So at the conclusion of this, we're going to talk about one way, but there's multiple ways to build up this part of your nervous system. Work is a place where we spend a lot of time, and so work is a place where I think it's nice to start to think about kindness. And studies have shown very clearly that positive work environments are more successful work environments. People are more productive, they feel more included, they're more likely to communicate and share opinions, they're more likely to cooperate and treat each other with respect, gratitude, trust, integrity, all the things that we want to see. So many of you savvy ladies are working already. So trying to bring some kindness, trying to bring these positive aspects into the workplace is a wonderful place to start with this Be Kinder commitment. So when you go into work, you can see this picture here. People are engaged, they're leaning forward, they're showing interest, they're smiling, they have happy faces, they clearly made an effort to look good in the workplace, and that's going to create that cooperation and creativity that's so vital, and it's going to help us all getting farther in life by being successful at work. Another way to incorporate kindness into your life is volunteering. And studies have shown that people who volunteer actually live longer. And that's because they're releasing that oxytocin, which is helping that calm side of their nervous system. And they're feeling happy and they're feeling purpose and meaning in their life. And so even though we might feel like we're under financial pressure and we're under time pressure, it can be so important to take time out to figure out where to volunteer. I wouldn't be here with you today if my daughter didn't volunteer at Savvy Ladies over the summer. So I'm so grateful that she had the opportunity to do that. And I'm grateful that I could take time out of my practice this hour and hopefully help you women feel a little bit better in the beginning of 2018. So volunteering can be anything. It can be 10 minutes, it can be an hour, it can be cooking for somebody, tutoring, it can be for a friend, again, a stranger. But if we are trying to think of balance and well-being as we go through 2018, incorporating some sort of volunteering in your life would be a very positive thing to do. Another way to give is to give financially, and Savvy Ladies educates you and all of us on how to make wise financial decisions. So sometimes people, when they give money, they end up feeling like, I don't know if that did anything, or I don't know if I gave to the right organization, or I gave to a friend and they didn't give it back and I ended up losing a friendship. So it's very important that when we give, we do it wisely. So there's many websites, but here I've shown you Charity Navigator to give suggestions about different nonprofits, get to know them, get to know how they're spending their money, so that if you do elect to give, that you give in a way that feels meaningful to you. A wonderful example of giving that I heard recently was a friend of mine who lives in Los Angeles. You know, they drive all the time. She accidentally hit a cat, and she was just distraught. And the cat did die, and she felt awful. One of her friends suggested to her, why don't you donate to a shelter and give money as a way of giving back for this accident that occurred. And she did it, and she elected to make a small donation that she could give monthly. So for the entire year, she could be honoring the memory of this cat. And I thought it was a beautiful way of trying to undo something that had happened. And she is the one who's healing. So by her giving, she's healing from a trauma. And that's what's so important to understand about kindness, is it's both the giver and the receiver that are going to benefit. So lots of other cats out there will get to benefit, or dogs, but my friend is also benefiting by honoring the memory of this unfortunate cat. So check Charity Navigator, check other sites, give money in a thoughtful way so that you know it's benefiting someone and it's benefiting you as well by knowing that you've created some meaning in the world. In terms of why I wrote the book, everybody asks me that, so I thought I would share a little bit about that before we close today. I wrote this book because kindness was shown to me. And when kindness is shown to you, it's wonderful if you can repay it. So back in 2008, when I was going through a difficult time, I had a different book that came out called The Beauty Prescription, and I was doing a radio show. And I was upset at the time. I was going through a separation that ended up in divorce. And the radio announcer was so kind to me. And he said, you know, you sound like a very interesting lady. Would you like to come back on the show? And I said, sure. Came back on a show, and he said, you know, you sound like a very nice person. Would you like to talk off the air? And keeping an open heart and not going into a paranoid, suspicious space, thankfully, I said, yes, I would love to talk to you off air. And we ended up having a really open, frank conversation where I shared with him how badly I was feeling at the time. And instead of taking advantage of that vulnerability, opportunity, this man that I never met, still haven't met, decided to be kind. And he became my friend. And he talked to me. And he talked to me many times. And he's still talking to me. And I was so struck by the fact that somebody I didn't know would take so much time to help me. And since he was a radio announcer, he had a very good way with words. And his words really impacted me and helped me to heal from that situation. I can say now that I feel very happy and have gone on, and I'm proud of getting out of that difficult situation and become more resilient. And as predicted, I think I can do better work with my patients who are going through that type of a trying time, as many people are. So those lemons have become lemonade. And I wondered, do other people have experiences like this where someone they haven't met is really transformative to them? So I put out a call for stories and gathered actually hundreds of stories. It was very difficult to weed them down to the 64 that you see in this book. But I tried to get stories that were diverse and reflected small giving, things like a kind word or a smile, to really complicated, a man who went to the Philippines and decided to establish funding for school children there, and has ended up educating over 90 children in the Philippines, all the way through college and many through graduate school. So the point of the book is not that anybody should do anything specific, as I told you at the beginning, but that each person should do whatever it is that they can do to be kind. So for me, I wanted to dedicate this book to Louis. I did. I'm really happy to have achieved that milestone. I also included my daughters because I wouldn't be able to write a book without them. They taught me so much about kindness and life in general. And it's been an honor, and it's an honor to share with you savvy ladies. I get choked up thinking about it, but it's been a lot of years of thinking about kindness and kindness from strangers, and now trying to inspire other people to do the same for people around them. We never know who's in trouble. We never know who's we're going to be able to help, but you'll see from the stories in Bekindr, just a simple word to a stranger might change their whole perspective. Their whole day might be lifted. So hopefully we'll get to see some of the examples. Part of my kindness is trying to give things away. So after this seminar, we're going to send a portion of the book with the introduction and specifics about ways to be kinder, so that if you don't want to buy the book, you can still participate and follow us on Facebook and be part of the Be Kinder initiative without having to buy the book. So the last thing that I'd like to leave you with, because I see I've already spoken long enough, is back to the parasympathetic nervous system and ways to be kinder to yourself, since that's my New Year's resolution, and hopefully some of you will join me in that resolution to be kind to yourself. So loving kindness meditation. Some of you savvy ladies might be meditating already, I don't know, but a loving kindness meditation is just a slight twist on that, which is sit down, your comfortable place, close your eyes, tap into that rest and digest space, and take care of yourself. And then to turn off those hamster wheeling in our head, it can be very useful to have a mantra. And many people trained in transcendental meditation get one word mantra, but with a loving kindness meditation, we try to think about that. So repeating these simple words: may I be well, may I be happy, may I be at ease. And then if you choose to, you can expand that. You could substitute somebody's name in there. So Maggie, today, may you be well, may you be happy, may you be at ease. Continue to expand. May my daughter Gigi be well, may she be happy, may she be at ease. And you can use whatever words feel most nurturing for you, because this is your time and your space. And we all want to build up our compassion for more and more people. So we start with ourselves and then we expand. And you know, the Buddhas who are expert in this, they're wishing love and happiness and well-being to everybody on the planet. So that's the journey, is to start to take care of yourself, take care of others, and to expand to take care of as many people as we can in the kindest, most loving fashion that we're able to. So we're going to close with Princess Diana, who is the Queen of Kindness. When we remember her many years after her passing, with this quote: "Carry out a random act of kindness with no expectation of reward, safe in the knowledge that one day someone might do the same for you." Wouldn't it be nice if we could all be remembered the way Diana is, for her kindness, for her open heart, for her charity, and for her love for humanity? I'd like to thank you ladies very much for taking the time out of your day and for listening to me, and for joining us at Be Kinder. And I hope you will join me in the resolution for better self-care and better care for others. And I'm here and open for questions. And if you want to email me later, I'm Eva, EVA, at bekinder.com. And I wish all of you the best. And I look forward to perhaps getting to interact more with some of you. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Dr. Ritvo. We'll move on to Q&A now. If you have a question, you can use the chat box, or you can email info@savvyladies.org. And I see that we had a question come in during the presentation, and it's: I'm concerned about my children and kindness. They are both using social media. Do you have guidance on how to influence their constant need to be on their phones? Right now, they can't use their phones during homework and mealtime, but it's such a challenge to really limit them.
So I think what we all have to understand is what cell phones do. And what they do is they give us very quick rewards. And our brain, remember back to evolutionary psychology, we were designed in times of scarcity. So our brains are designed to be lazy because we didn't have a lot of energy, a lot of fuel. So things that are quick, our brain loves, right? So anything you can do quick, your brain loves. And that's what the cell phone has taken advantage of. Everything is so fast, and so much of it is a reward. That human connection, you get it so quickly, your brain gets a little squirt of dopamine and you feel rewarded, and it's highly addicting. Dopamine is responsible for pleasure and reward, but it's also responsible for addiction. So we have to recognize that many of us, myself included, are addicted to our cell phones. And as an adult, that's very difficult to manage. But as a child with a developing brain, it's far more difficult to manage. So the younger the child is, the more you have to keep them away from that cell phone, right? Just like we don't give alcohol to children because it's addicting. And we know that at a young age, they're not going to be able to manage that. If you drink alcohol at a young age, the odds of getting addicted are way too high. So we don't let children have alcohol. We don't let them have cigarettes. Yet we let them have cell phones, which are so powerfully addicting. So you are a very sensitive mom who's noticed a big problem, and you're doing the right thing by taking the phone away, making these kids function without these cell phones, without that immediate reward. Families are taking vacations without them. They have to be banned from the dinner time table. They shouldn't be going to school with kids, depending on their age, and really limiting exposure, educating your kids. What is an addiction? Why are you doing this? And getting them to really tune into their real world, not that constant cell phone. It's very damaging. And my personal concern is that all this immediate gratification is what's fueling all these anxiety disorders that we're seeing in our kids nowadays. So I appreciate your sensitive question. And it really depends on the age of the child and finding the right guidelines, but doing the best you can to keep your kid present, tuned into their environment, and off of their cell phone. And social media, unfortunately, is also an area ripe for bullying. So you want to educate your kids how, don't say anything in writing that you wouldn't say in person. And the last thing about children is the way our children learn about kindness, the way they learn about anything, is from the grown-ups in their environment. So making sure that you are being kind to your children Even if it's something like taking away a cell phone, doing it in a kind way, don't doing it in an angry or mean way, but letting them know, hey, taking your cell phone away because I love you and it's not good for your brain and I want your brain to be the best brain that it can be. And so treating them in a kind fashion and then showing them how you need to be kind to others by demonstrating that. So when you come home from the end of the day saying, gee, so-and-so at work was upset today. I felt so good that I was able to take them out to lunch and listen to them for 20 minutes. And showing them how to be kind to other people is really important. And then volunteering as a family. Some families have the tradition every Thanksgiving or every Christmas of incorporating a family activity for volunteering. So there's a myriad of ways, but in the beginning of this presentation, I told you about mirror neurons. And your kids are watching you. They can't help it. Their brain is designed to do that. They're going to mimic your behavior. So if you want kind children, it's pretty simple. Just be kind.
Okay, great. Thank you. Another question is, meditation never really seems to work for me, but I'm open to trying again. And I like the meditation that you included in your presentation here. Do you have any tips on how to not get distracted?
So that's a wonderful question. And what meditation is it's a mental discipline. And it's about quieting our mind. So our minds, especially when we're bombarded with so much stimuli, they spin. They're like hamster wheels. They're going, and it's exhausting. And we get very drained. So what meditation is really about is about rest for your brain. So it shouldn't be something that's stressful. So if you are new at meditating, you're not going to know how to do it because you're new at it. You don't know how to do it. And so if you're starting to try to meditate and your mind wanders, don't worry. That's of course the case because you're not experienced. Just simply be kind and gentle to yourself and bring your mind back to whatever meditation you like. And over time, you'll develop that skill of being able to calm your mind and get rid of all that chatter. But meditation is like anything. It takes practice. It takes discipline. You're not going to be good at it right away. So don't be critical of yourself if you're not a good meditator at the beginning. That's like walking into a kitchen and saying, why am I not a great chef? Well, of course you're not. But if you can cultivate that over time, you can get your body to calm down. You can get your mind to calm down. It can be a very restful period. So in my opinion, just start really small. Don't try to cook a gourmet meal. Scramble some eggs. Meditate for 3 minutes. Expand it to 5 minutes. Do that twice a day. Do it every other day. Don't be harsh with yourself. And see if over time it's something that becomes enjoyable for you as your brain gets better and better at it and it becomes a calming state for you. And I'm glad that you like the loving kindness meditation because it gives you a focus. It's a little bit more interesting for your mind than a mantra. But you can start with that and later you may decide that you need a mantra. I personally believe with meditation that there's no rights and no wrongs. We each have to do what serves us. And so try again, see if these tips help a little bit. But if this isn't right for you, go on YouTube, find a relaxation tape that helps. Find a song that helps you. Take a warm bath. Take a walk in nature. It's not vitally important to do any one of these. It's vitally important to find something that nurtures you and makes you feel calm and rested. So I hope that clarifies.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much for that. And I believe this is the last question we have. It's, I'd like to help make my work environment more kind. What are some things I can do or could talk to my colleagues about doing?
It's hard to give a general answer. But what I would say is creating a focus on the office. So it depends if you're the boss. If you're the boss, emotions tend to flow from the most powerful person in the room. That's the mirror neurons, right? You come in and you're going to impart your emotions if you walk in with power. So if you're a boss and you want to create a positive work environment based on kindness, then you have to do just what I said the mother has to do for the child. You have to embody that. So if you want to have a positive work environment, you have to be kind. So you have to come into the office with a smile, because a smile is kind, because it makes people feel better. You have to say hello to people. You have to ask how their day was. You have to be quiet and listen. People love to be listened to. That's why I say there's a therapist on every corner, but very few public speakers, because we all like to be listened to. And so listen to people into your office, and set a tone where people are respected and courteous. And you can go a step farther. You can put up, notes. I suggest putting up notes that say, I will be kinder today. And at the end of the day, what did I do to be kinder today? Just to reinforce in your brain. So if you're the boss, you can say, we're starting a kind work environment. Each one of you is tapped to do something kind for the office this week. Or I'm going to do something kind for the office this week, whatever it is. And it should be small things. It shouldn't be things that are too big, because you don't want to burn out, right? You don't want to be like that New Year's resolution and starve yourself the first 3 weeks of the month and then binge the next, rest of the year. So just starting out small. And that's why I really believe in small things, like opening the door for somebody, asking how they are, smile. These are things that you can repeat every day. They're going to add to your life. You're going to feel better because you're connected with people. One very kind thing to do is make eye contact. Get off the cell phone. So if people are having a difficult time connecting with each other in the office, maybe you want to, take a technology-free day. That helps all of our brains, and that helps us feel a lot better. If you're not the boss, then it's a little harder to set the tone for the office, but do the exact same things that we just talked about as the boss, but you can't expect to be quite as impactful. But things can start anywhere and ripple. So maybe you want to say to one of your colleagues, hey, I'm on a new kindness campaign. I'm trying to think of something to do to be kind every day or every week or once a month, whatever you want to take on for yourself, and talk to them about it and see if you guys can do some of that together for the office. Maybe you can bake for the office one day, or go out, organize a happy hour so people feel friendly. And I don't mean happy hour, lots of drinking. I mean happy hour, get out of the office, put your cell phones down, talk to each other. Part of being kind, I believe, is avoiding toxins. And alcohol, we know, is a poison. So, avoiding any excess alcohol, of course, is going to be very important to be kind to yourself. So there's lots of different things that you can do in the workplace. You can stay away from negative news, because that makes us unkind. You can look for positive news. Like I said, follow us on Facebook, send us your stories, start to think about kindness. There's something called the Good News Network, which posts good news every day. Try to go out and create those stories for yourself, and just try to shift your focus. Kindness is about anything. Focus on it, and you can make it happen for you and for your workplace and for your children and for your partners. But it has to be something that we elect to focus on, simply because we have so many distractions nowadays.
Okay, so those are the questions we have, and I just want to share a comment with you that we received. It's your talk was very moving, especially when you shared your personal stories. Thank you for a very inspiring webinar and challenging me to become kinder as a retired teacher. So just want to share that with you, and we might receive more that I'll pass along. And just a reminder, Dr. Ritvo's email is here where you can send the stories. And I want to thank you, Dr. Ritvo, for a really, really great presentation. And thanks to everyone for joining us today. As Dr. Ritvo mentioned, we'll be sending out, I believe it's an excerpt from your book, so you can look for that soon. Thank you again so much.
Well, thank you, Maddie, and thank you, ladies, and thank you to the teacher for sending those kind words. People can look up love languages, 5 different love languages, and words of affirmation are a way of expressing love or kindness. So I really appreciate that somebody sent such kind words after a kindness presentation. That's a wonderful, wonderful thing to do. It made me feel so good. I hope that they feel so good. And teachers tend to be very thoughtful, patient, and many of them so kind. And it's wonderful that you got to retire after having impacted lots of lives. So thank you so much. That was a very nice touch to the end of this seminar.
Great. Thank you.